There you are in 22nd, by the way. First car one lap down.
Oh, I need a yellow.
Those cars that era, it always felt like you were driving outside the right side window.
Stock car racing at its finest.
All right, hey, it's Parker Kligerman, joined as always by Landon Cassill. We're NASCAR drivers. You may also know us from the Money Lap podcast. We are back with another NASCAR Reacts. We still don't have a good name. We didn't even take any of the suggestions out there, although we probably should have sifted through those and picked one of them, Landon. This React, though, this is a special one. It's the 2011 finish between Jimmie Johnson and Jeff Gordon at Atlanta. Probably one of the best, 11 or so lap duels in NASCAR history. But even cooler is that you are probably the first React person on YouTube that has been in the race you're reacting to and was the test driver for that team that won the race or was battling for the win at the end. What do you remember about that time?
Yeah, this was an amazing year for Hendrick Motorsports, for myself personally, because this was kind of my first year, 2011, of racing full-time. I didn't race completely full-time. I picked up the 51 ride from Phoenix Racing a couple races into the season from Bill Elliott. But I was testing for Hendrick Motorsports at the time. Most of my testing was with the 48 team, and I remember those cars just being crazy fast. I actually did a tire test with Jimmie's car a couple of weeks after I had raced at Fontana, and my first lap on track in the 48 car was faster than my qualifying lap in the 51 a couple of weeks prior. So that just tells you how fast those cars were. But this race, I remember this race. I was in the race. I had a really good run. We were kind of a top 20-ish car. I was really good on short runs. But what was amazing to me about this race, being a Hendrick guy at the time, was how dominant Jimmie was. But seeing Jeff Gordon sort of we saw a version of old Jeff Gordon in this race, and it was like two Greek gods battling with lightning bolts and thunder against each other, because you just had the two of the greatest of all time going at it for the win in Atlanta. It is an incredible race. I can't wait to rehash this with you.
Two Greek gods at Atlanta, a slick racetrack, and just to add in, I was also the test driver at Penske at this time for their Cup program, and I can just say these cars were awesome. Some of the highest horsepower race cars I ever got to drive in my life. But I think with that, we should dive in. Let's watch this and point out a couple things that we see that you may not at home. Let's do it.
Roughly got loose and he slowed significantly. That's what happened 2 laps ago. Jeff said,
Oh, just being off the yellow line on the 24, it makes such a big difference.
3 and 4, you got to be on it. There's just that secret grip down there. The left side's on the line.
You can just see how wore out the pavement is, just because there's no consistency in the texture. You can see the way the cars are moving around.
Yep.
By the way, you're going to see my name across the top of the ticker here in like a few seconds. I'm not watching the race. I'm watching for myself.
Yeah, you're like, wait, where am I on this thing? So one thing to pay attention to throughout these laps, as we joined with like 11 laps ago, is the different lines that Jimmie tries, and he just cannot get it done. And one of the things about Atlanta, although you can move around a ton, there you are in 22nd, by the way, first car one lap down. Very respectful run.
I need a yellow.
Yeah, come on, give us one, lucky dog. You'll see he uses the top side in 1 and 2, which does work. Is one of my favorite lines. But 3 and 4, the top lanes in the later years of this track just weren't there. They weren't available as much as they probably were years prior. And if he hooks that bottom lane, he gets such great runs.
Jimmie missed the bottom right there in 3 and 4, and you can see how much of a penalty it was. I'm anxious to see what happens here, because I do not remember the last 8 laps of this, and I'm curious if they utilize the top at all, because I had the same belief that you did until the last time I raced at Atlanta on the old pavement. I ripped the top in 3 and 4 and made some incredible time. So we'll see if Jimmie does any of that. Looks like he's trying to use this middle. Every once in a while, if you hit it just right, you could find some grip right there.
Yeah, and you got Ambrose basically wrecking in front of them. This gives him a little bit of a run because Jeff gets caught underneath Ambrose. And that slide you see, people may see that and be like, how the hell are you doing that at 150, 160 miles an hour? When these cars had 900 horsepower at the flywheel at this era.
You're barely touching the throttle right there.
You could barely touch it, and it would spin the rears. Like late into a run, oh my gosh. We would do those longevity tests at Rockingham, and you'd get to where you weren't even 20% throttle 50 laps in.
Eating up the yellow line. Look how much Jeff was willing to give up speed-wise to get back to the yellow line. And it worked. It paid off. He was able to protect the position. right?
And you know that feeling that was there was as you look, Jimmie's going to go to the bottom here. He's just not able to get the power down. The high side in 1 and 2 always worked, but down in 3 and 4, when you talk about hooking that yellow line, it's like when you would hook it correctly, the car would pivot on the left front and almost just perfectly set itself up for you to put the throttle on exit. What's that?
Well, I thought they were going to fight for the O-line. Jeff is fighting for the O-line. Jimmie is trying to make this middle work.
It's not going to work. It's no man's land. He keeps, and what tells me how good his car was is how many times he's able to flip those lines. And what I guess you would know better than me because you were so intimately close to him. Oh, I love that slide off of 2. He does those so easily, switching lanes, and is just perfectly on it in each lane.
There it is.
Well,
all the way down on the
this should
O-line.
be it. Yep.
Oh, but he came off of it.
No.
He came off of it. He couldn't finish it. So close. You know what we don't see them doing?
The right rear tire.
We don't see them actually ripping the fence. This right here is the highest that Jeff has been in the last 8 laps.
That's a good point. Yeah. Huh.
I wonder why that is. You know, sometimes it's hard to run a line that rips the fence when you're in a battle with somebody.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's really hard.
You have to give up
2
so
laps
much on
to get
entry.
Yep.
And there's outside off of 4 would do it. Because it would get him the outside position into turn 1, which is really what he wants.
He needed. Because, he keeps being forced low here to get the clean air, and it just doesn't work. You can't. That corner.
Such a nice line on the 24. 24 is going to have a great run here.
Oh. Touching the wall. You could do that car. Those cars that era, one, they look sideways. It always felt like you were driving outside the right side window. And
see, look how high Jimmie went.
I know. Look, it doesn't work.
See, look at this run though. No, he's gonna. He didn't.
No.
He didn't get off of 4 with it.
It doesn't work.
So
you can't get the power down.
It's tough, but you have to drive it in so much deeper than you think into 3, and that's where it worked for me when I did it. Obviously, I'm still talking about something that was 10 years after this.
You're saying it catches you in the middle, basically, if you do it right.
Yeah, it's just so far around the corner. And the entry to turn 3 at Atlanta is a really soft entry. So you can stay in the throttle even after you start turning for a long time.
No. Think of that right rear tire right now. Final lap.
Oh, my God.
He's basically given up 5 car lengths. But watch this do 1 and 2, by the way.
Highlight.
Watch this. Watch this. Look at this 1 and 2.
He's on it.
Nails it. Look at that slide.
Oh, that's incredible. I just remember watching the highlights of this after I got out of the car after the race and was like, these were my 2 heroes just battling it out.
So good. Oh, look at that. Just completely Tokyo drifting off the corner. Doesn't get it done.
Like I said at the beginning, it was so special at the time that Jeff was the one that won this. You know?
Yep.
Like, this was 2011. This was peak Jimmie Johnson. And yet Jeff, 4-time, still showed that he could do it. I mean, it was really internally at Hendrick Motorsports in the shop and everybody there. It was a huge confidence boost for just everybody on the 24 team and Hendrick Motorsports in general. It was really cool. And made me, at the time, proud to be driving those cars.
No doubt. And I think that is one of those ones that when we looked at doing these reacts, it was so funny how many people said to do this race because they remembered it.
That's awesome.
And they're wondering the same thing, what's going through a driver's mind in a battle like that over 10 laps and the amount of shots that Jimmie takes at Jeff. And to your point, such a seminal moment for Jeff because later in his career to be that perfect under that amount of pressure for that, a guy who's on a just tear, he's top of his game at the time, replacing you as the sort of superstar of that place, and to hold him off continually with that many shots. I just think that's a really impressive drive. One of his most impressive, leading up to his final win at Martinsville 2015. That to me is one of the most amazing drives he's ever had.
And also just stock car racing at its finest. How about that?
That is very true. That amount of horsepower, downforce, wore-out tires, multiple grooves, cars way off the pace because their cars are awful.
Yep.
The one actually thing we didn't point out, which I think was pretty funny, was if you look at that at about 3 to go, Kurt Busch is in third, and he's 5 seconds back.
Yeah, but that's stock car racing sometimes gets a rap for spread out and stuff like that. But all it takes is just those two, a battle like that, and it makes it up. We didn't even realize there were any other cars on the racetrack. All we needed were those two.
Shit, so cool. All right, well, that's another NASCAR React from Money Lap. Still don't have a name. Let us know in the comments. Let us know what's the next one you want us to do here, and we'll dive into it, watch it, give you our opinions, our reacts, and maybe find some things that you didn't see or some insight. I don't know. Anyway, that's another one. Peace.